Class is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Ooh, all right. Hey, here we are again. Hi, everybody, and nice to imagine you're there. And I just want to welcome you so far. And I can only go so far. When you come later, I just welcome, but I can't do it again. So hi, Alex and Anne, and Anne Nguyen and Anne Parker. Hi, Annette, Antoinette, Barbara, Carl, Chuang, David Allen, Eva, Gretchen, Helen, Jessica, Joan, and Johi, Karen, and Kim Knight. She has a question there, so maybe you can field that, Michael or Joe or someone. Or Margot, hi, and Marianne. Yanka, Peg, hi. Nice to see you. Suzanne, Walter, Zenaidi, and over here we have the staff, it's trying to keep me honest and keep everything on track. All right. So let's just see. Tomorrow morning, I don't think we have anything, but tomorrow evening we have the Soul of Nations, correct? I believe that's the case. And then Sunday, we're going to have the EUN, Esoteric United Nations, for the members thus far, and we'll have another intake opportunity for people who would like to help to evoke specifically the souls, the soul of various nations, or the soul of humanity through the nations. And then we have the attracting financial resources for the hierarchy. So, okay. Now, we left off last time, I think it was here, and it should have said the 12th of June, which is today, not the 5th. And there's a meditation that is different from the meditation we normally use. Tuya will be giving the meditation. We're going to be working with a particular glamour. Let's see, what do we got here? Will the selfish promotion of the personality as more important than the soul? Well, we certainly see that. We basically see what's happening there, that people don't care whether others live or die, just as long as they get what they want. And this is a psychological disease, I might say. So that's what we're going to work on today. All these glamours, they really circulate around the one factor of misidentification. We think we are something that we're not, and we then go forth and try to preserve and promote that something that we think we are, but we're not. And we make a great mistake. And so egoism leads to egotism. The illusion of egoism, which is the fundamental mistake, leads to an attitude of self-emphasis. And when I say self, it's not the self at all, it's the little self. Now, DK tells us we have to take our eyes off the little self and maybe learn finally to focus within the soul and even as the soul. And that takes some work, and our meditation, he tells us, will not be successful until we can do that. So, even going back 100 years and just getting into letters on occult meditation will show us that it was of concern to him even then that people couldn't meditate because they could not focus within the causal body. So we have to learn how to do that. And then maybe when we can, we will stop emphasizing that which is secondary and transfer our emphasis to that which is at least primary compared with the personality. So here we're dealing with kind of enlightenment. We'll have two meditations today. And he tells us, you know, you can look on at many, many disturbing things, just don't get disturbed. If you pay this intelligent attention to this matter, the matter, and no more, refusing to be distressed or to be disturbed, no bad results will occur. Things happen, and the solar plexus gets stirred up as we are attempting to transfer the energy into the heart center between the shoulder blades from the solar plexus. It's not necessarily an easy transfer. Maybe it's the most difficult of all because the astral plane does not have a dividing line the way the etheric physical and the higher mental, lower mental does. So it's a very powerful vehicle in this particular quite Davic solar system. So we're going to have to deal with that and all of the storms and moods that arise on the astral plane. We have to look on with equanimity, and that's why Libra is so important at the second initiation, and Venus too, giving us that sense of equanimity no matter what comes up. And it will come up because the battle is with Mars and Pluto, and then the next battle at the third degree is with Mars and continuing Pluto, but with Vulcan. Will and desire, and another branch of will, which is Plutonic will, at the second degree, and again, desire. Mars stirs everything up, and we have to overcome the influence of that non-sacred planet somehow, while using it for the sake of aspiration. Okay, so more people are coming, and welcome to you. Let's try this meditation. We're just going in order, reading through the book. And, you know, it's going to be about light, among other things. There's a group meditation, but we're not going to deal with that right now. We're going to deal with that which is interspersed within the group meditation. And let's see what we get. So let's get into our meditative attitude. And having linked up with all of our group brothers, let's, you know, just imagine all those here in this particular case who are working in the Dissipation of Glamour group. I know we all have different groups, but we'll imagine the people present. Then consciously carry out these hints given symbolically in the ancient writing. He paraphrased these earlier, but he repeats. So link up consciously with your soul and realize this linking as a fact. You have pulled back as the soul in incarnation from identification with the personality, and now you're linking up with the soul on the higher mental plane, and you are realizing this linking as a fact. That world of the soul is coming into sharper focus, and it is being experienced as something real rather than just a form of words. Then carry the light of the soul through the power of the creative imagination direct to your astral body, and from thence to the solar plexus center, which is the line of least resistance. Remember, there is an astral solar plexus and there is an etheric solar plexus. The light of the soul carried to the astral body, and then to that solar plexus in the astral body, then to the solar plexus in the etheric body. Light in the world of glamour. Then transfer the light of the soul and the innate light of the astral body from the solar plexus center to the heart center by a definite act of the will. Transfer the light of the soul and the innate light of the astral body from the solar plexus center to the heart center by a definite act of the will. And remember too, there is a heart center on the second subplane of the astral plane also. So here the light of soul has come down into the solar plexi, and we lift those energies of the soul and the solar plexi into the heart centers. It's pretty common in DK's meditations that you make a descent of energy and then you rise again. Then, imaginatively stand with your back to the world of glamour, and with the eye of your mind, we can call it for the moment the kind of imagination. With the eye of your mind focused upon the soul, whose nature is love. Your back is to the world of glamour. You can even repeat it to yourself. You know, and that focusing on the soul will become quite real to us. Then let a few minutes pass, a few minutes interlude, then take place, wherein you stabilize yourself for work and definitely and consciously focus the light available from all sources within the heart center. You know, the heart sees reality. And imagine the center between the shoulder blades as a radiant sun. And he says, I might here point out that this is in the individual, the microcosmic correspondence to the heart of the sun, which is always directed by the central spiritual sun, localized in the head. You know, it's the related to the monad and also to the soul. So get this picture clearly into your consciousness, for it involves the dual yet synthetic activity of head and the heart. You know, as we do this, we begin to feel ourselves living above the personality. And very subtly, a change in the elevation of perception begins to occur. Then see a shaft of pure white light, broad and brilliant, pouring out of the heart center between the shoulder blades, onto which that localized glamour with which you as a group are dealing. What this localized area is, I will presently disclose. Let's just imagine it's selfishness, which seems to be so key. Out of the heart center, pure white light, broad. We localize the general glamour of selfishness. We'll amplify it later. And when this is clearly defined in your mind and inspired by your desire and force, and when you have the entire symbolic picture clearly visualized, then your particular shaft of light, blended with the shafts of light which your group brothers are projecting. We'll see our shaft blending the many shafts into one out of the heart. And thus a great flood of directed light coming from several trained aspirants. And are you trained, my brothers? Will pour on to that area of glamour with which you are supposed to deal. They're pretty much, the glamour is arising from personality identification and focus. There's a lot of intensity when all those shafts get together. So in one meditation, it's the heart, this one, and in another meditation, it's the eye or the ajna. And do this work for 5 carefully sustained minutes, and then proceed as indicated in the next part of the meditation. So DK was adapting and creating some kind of alignment here which would make the other meditation, the group meditation, more successful. There's something maybe even more in the heart, related as it is to the Buddhic plane, than in the colder light of the ajna center per se. We blend our shafts together. We blend our shafts together. And we dissipate the selfishness. This is done a major blow at the second initiation. Mars is confronted by Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune. And of course, the centers are what you would suspect. Neptune ruling the solar plexus, the higher part of it. Jupiter ruling the heart, and Venus ruling the agenus center. And if you have some little mantram that you can invent for yourself, you can do that. So maybe sometime we'll take out the other meditation and leave this one with it. But this is a good little meditation. We'll close with an Om as the shafts of light blend. So you can kind of memorize the steps here. It's not difficult, and we can use this one too, as well as the other technique of light. He says, well, maybe we won't go on to what he says just yet. We'll just ask if there is anyone who would like to say anything about the use. I recognize, for the first time, the use of this meditation, which works from the solar plexus to the heart, and thence to the dissipation of glamour. Glamour is a distortion, and with the eyes of the heart being connected to the Buddhic plane, that distortion can end, and something more real can take its place. Anything anyone would like to offer at this point? I realize, that we're just starting with it, but there's, I remember in the arcane school, we were studying some borrowings from the Agni Yoga teaching. And the first study was called The Doctrine of the Eye. And then the second study, deeper yet, was called The Doctrine of the Heart. I think both have their utility. Both have their utility, and you'll probably feel them in different ways. But this blending together of the shafts of light, this is very important. The many lines become one line. And whether it's from the ajna or from the heart. And then there comes the power in the blending of the dissipatory or dissipating forces. So if there's nothing to be said there, let's just go a little farther. In defining illumination as the antithesis of glamour, now remember that both Taurus and Scorpio at different times can be the sponsors of illumination. Taurus is the mother of illumination, and Scorpio, in the 5 or 6 stages of meditation, rules illumination. Leo, concentration; Virgo, meditation; Libra, contemplation; Scorpio, illumination; Sagittarius, inspiration; Capricorn, initiation. So light. Light is very important in these exercises. We're dealing first with the techniques of light, and later there will be this technique of the presence, which is still more advanced. We'll get into that. So, glamour. And it's obvious, he says, that my remarks must necessarily be limited to certain aspects of illumination and will only concern those directed forms of work and those presentations of the problem which will concern the use of light upon the astral plane, and particularly in connection with the work that you have pledged yourself to do. Now, obviously, the whole universe is condensed light, so we can speak of illumination on so many different levels. But now we're dealing with what helps us clear the astral plane. First, of course, the etheric plane will be cleared, and then will come the time, maybe some centuries ahead, when the glamour, there'll be, Vulcan will have been discovered, and there will be a great attack on what glamour is, and we're just kind of working a little bit ahead of the game here. We have to clear this astral plane. It turns everything upside down, and people react without thinking, and they fall into the grip of demagogues and others who appeal only to their selfish emotions. So we have to really work occultly in clearing these matters. There are many ways to use light, and remember that every form is really light. Every form is created out of the condensation of light. The whole universe is a kind of condensation of light. In the Kabbalah, light condenses and creates the universe. So everything that we see, the Einsteinian formula, can be converted into light and heat and various energies. Form is energy. And it's possible to reduce what we normally consider form to light. And every plane represents a different type of light, progressively intense on the way to the most intense light of the universe, which is, at least in terms of universal terms, it's the brightest. I mean, you know, Shambhala may look dark to us, the dark light of Shambhala, even though it's the place of great enlightenment. It's the place where liberated light or unfettered enlightenment can be found, but it's dim indeed to kinds of light which are super black, lying far beyond the point of tension, which is Shambhala. Now, we can't deal with that. We can't even deal with Shambhala, but there is a progression of strata of light. It's like the extension of the electromagnetic spectrum into ever greater frequencies. So some study of the vibratory nature, not only of the universe, but not only of the cosmic physical plane, but perhaps of other cosmic planes as well. Does vibration exist on other planes? That's a big question. On other cosmic planes, and I would say probably it is so. So he says there are many other definitions possible, for the light of the soul is like an immense searchlight, the beams of which can be turned in many directions and focused on many levels. We are, however, only concerned here with its specialized use. So he draws a limitation. We can't learn everything at once, and we can't learn everything. You know, when DK tells you he could fill many volumes with a particular little subject, so it looks, he means he could. So we are very limited creatures. And we just have to draw a ring past knot around what we can do and work as successfully as possible within that. Illumination, says the Tibetan, and the light of knowledge can be regarded as synonymous terms, and many glamours can be dissipated and dispersed when subjected to the potency of the informative mind, for the mind is essentially the subduer of emotion through the presentation of fact. That's wonderful. The mind is the subduer of emotion, which distorts so much, through the presentation of fact. So there you have the fifth ray again, subduing emotion through the presentation of fact, and that's pretty much what you're going to find in relation to the Ajna center, which is usually considered for most people to be ruled by Venus in its fifth ray aspect. Illumination and the light of knowledge. We have to have a well-stocked mind. Alice Bailey, insisted on that, and so did the Tibetan. The mind may be the slayer of the real, but it's the wrong use of the mind that is the slayer of the real. Otherwise, the mind is a great servant, and they also say a poor master. Have you seen people who are entirely driven by their mind or by some kind of mental acquisitiveness or some kind of ambition about knowledge? I'm reminded of Master R with his third ray monad. And when he was Sir Francis Bacon. He said something, maybe we'll, agree that it was not too modest. He says to his uncle, the administrator in Queen Elizabeth's sort of court, name was Burleigh. He said, I take all knowledge as my province. A province is where you range, it's your area, your domain. I take all knowledge as my province. Well, I would say that Master R has done very well in the pursuit of a great deal of knowledge. I think there's always two monadic rays involved, certainly for him, since he is now the Mahachohan. One of those has to be Ray 3, one of the great rays of knowledge. And when he was Sir Francis Bacon, he had Aquarius rising, the sun in Aquarius, and Mercury on the ascendant in Aquarius. Now, the one ray that comes through Aquarius at this time is the fifth ray. And basically, Bacon was responsible, what did it say? He rang the bell that called the wits together. So in his own way, he started the scientific revolution. He says, don't speculate, prove it, and from his time, the fifth ray, as the harbinger of the Aquarian age, became stronger and stronger, even though its next cycle was from 1775. So can we subdue emotion? Well, Mercury has a lot of fifth ray too, the hand, Mercury, and 5 fingers, 4 plus 1. I believe the monadic ray of Mercury is the 5 and the 3. And the soul ray of Venus, 5, but not its monadic rays. Those are more on the heart line, 6 and 2. So let us not shrink from the accumulation of knowledge, which can, wow, this is one of those phrases which I think is so powerful and could be memorized. The mind is essentially the, quote here, subduer of emotion, which is the great distorting factor, through the presentation of fact. Now, sometimes it's been said that we live in a post-fact era. We live in a post-truth era, and lies are abundant, and the devil, which is the personality, is the father of lies. Well, we're getting a workout on that one right now, all over the world, with leaders misrepresenting the truth. And the fifth ray is as if taking a vacation, or at least is not applied in the area of government as assiduously as it should be. The problem is to induce the individual or the race or nation, which is acting under the influence of glamour, to call in the mental power of assessing the situation and subject it to a calm, cold scrutiny. Well, the mind as it is in Christ is much more, but this is a step in employing the fifth ray to come to our aid and at least reveal how things are, rather than wrapped in the fog. And these days we have to value it when someone really applies himself or herself to the presentation of truth. You just can't believe the distortion that's going on. Glamour and emotion play into each other's hands. You know, DK says if you find yourself getting all emotional about something, and check out where the glamour may be. If your first tendency is to react with emotion rather than objectivity, you know, Saggioli was a big one for saying, look, treat your whole inner life objectively as if you were a scientist studying it and not getting emotionally involved in what you see. Well, you know, some people say, well, that's too cold for me, but it certainly will help with the detaching which is necessary in order to avoid falling victim to distortion. Glamour and emotion play into each other's hands, and feeling runs so strong, usually in relation to glamour, that it is impossible to bring the light of knowledge, bring in the light of knowledge with ease and effectiveness. So, you know, forewarned is forearmed. If you get repeatedly triggered on certain subjects, better look at what's going on there, because something may be hiding that you don't know about, and it may need examination. I think Sigmund Freud had a lot of the fifth ray. Maybe Carl Jung did too. They were able to look at the psyche in a fairly objective, subjective way. They looked at subjectivity in an objective way. Well, I think every occultist has to look at the subjective worlds, or at least the subtle worlds, which is not the same as subjective. Subjective is deeper yet, really. Subjectivity is of the soul, really. But at least the subtle worlds are the psychic worlds of emotion, astral plane, and the mind, the lower mind. To look at those things in an objective way, even though we consider them subjective or at least subtle. Then, you know, you just quiet yourself and you say, well, I don't care what I see. I want to see what I see, and I want to report to myself on what I see. And that's why, you know, when you're training to be a psychologist, they pretty much make you go through the kind of therapy for sometimes for a long time, to which you would be subjecting others, both in the Jungian school and in the psychoanalytic school, and probably, you know, in the psychosynthetic school. Illumination and perception of truth are also synonymous terms. Think of that. But it should be remembered that the truth, in this case, is not truth on the abstract planes, but concrete and knowable truth. Truth which can be formulated and expressed in concrete form and terms. Well, it's still valuable, isn't it? There are higher truths and lesser truths. And is there any such thing as truth except as perceived by the all-seeing eye of the universal God? That's the eye that perceives the truth. Everything else is a reduction of it. Where the light of truth is called in, glamour automatically disappears. Now, isn't that interesting? That it's our tendency to lie, protect ourselves, hide from things, avoid, evade, escape, which subjects us to glamour. We're just afraid of the truth, which would release us from the glamour. Where the light of truth is called in, glamour disappears, even if only for a temporary period. Well, you know, it's like the weather. It's cloudy, it's stormy, it's turbulent, and then for a little while, there's your patch of blue. And then in come the clouds again until the dissipation really proceeds to the point where the storm clouds cannot regather and the sky turns blue. But again, difficulty arises because few people care to face the actual truth. Well, that's an indictment, isn't it? For it involves eventually the abandonment of the beloved glamour and the ability to recognize error and to admit mistakes. The natural sort of pride of the personality gets in the way of that and then slows you down and holds you back. And this, the false pride of the mind, will not permit. Oh boy, these are juicy paragraphs and really powerful if we would just take the time to assimilate. We're not talking about the abstract truth, but even just knowable truth on a level that many people can know. Where the light of truth is called in, glamour automatically disappears, even if only for a temporary period. And then the indictment that we really love our glamours, because after all, that's how I am, isn't it? You know, that's the way I am. So we love our glamours. And we don't want the truth which hurts to enter in and detach us from the glamours we love, because that's how I am. It never crosses our mind that it's not set in stone and we can't change. I had a relative that always used to, with his first ray mind, he used to repeat to me, "You'll never change human nature." Well, I've heard it many times, but all of occultism and especially spiritual occultism is based precisely on the idea that indeed human nature is much more than we suspect, and you can change in human nature into human nature, because mostly we're under Mars and have the animal in us predominating until it is confronted by Venus and then by Vulcan. So you have a triangle there of Vulcan, Venus, and Mars. And both Vulcan and Venus, who are in some stories married to each other, each in their own way, they subdue Mars. Well, here's Vulcan, and here's Venus, and they subdue the solar plexus, which is ruled by Mars. Again, I would assure you, he says, that humility, there's Libra and Venus again, is one of the most potent factors in releasing the illuminating power of the mind. This is really such good stuff, as it reflects and transmits the light of the soul. The mind held steady in the light is what we must achieve. The determined facing of the factual life and the stern recognition of truth, whew, coldly, calmly, and dispassionately, will greatly facilitate the calling in of the flood of illumination which will suffice to dispel glamour. Usually it's dissipate, but in this particular case, he's using the illusion word. We usually dispel illusion, but okay, you know, maybe you can dispel glamour too. So that's as far as I'm going to go now. And we're on page 145. Now we're on page 145. I don't think we actually began on 145, did we? Not really. We began on 143. Okay, so 143. So I'll copy this. It's a little bit big, isn't it? And we began at 1:43, had a meditation. Now 1:45 is where we begin the next time, but I really would recommend that you go to your Glamour book, or, you know, let's stop fooling around, get the CD-ROM. If you don't have the CD-ROM, you're not in the 21st century as far as the study of the Bailey books is concerned. So you might as well just break down and get it. And it will facilitate your work 100-fold. Certainly the speed of location will be that. All right, so this is, I guess it's ending program 86. Is that it, Michael? I'm not sure. And beginning 87? Yeah.
This is program 85, webinar 145.
85. I'm sorry. I like big letters. 85 and program.
Okay. And 145, pages 143 through 145.
And did it end? Okay. Right. This is the end of it.
Page 143, and we ended on 145.
Okay, good. Like to keep things straight a little bit so I don't lose my not self the next time I come around. All right.
And today is June 12th.
Yeah, good. Yeah. And this is June 12th. And next time will be 19th?
Yes.
Something like that? Right. I can add 7, right? And we begin on page 145. Is that correct?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, so now he, the next time when we pick up, he's going to talk about a particular glamour that I'm asking your help, he says, in dispelling. It's interesting, we disperse Maya, we dissipate glamour, usually, and we dispel illusion. But okay, he's not being too rigorous about the word dispel, which is usually applied to what the intuition does to illusion. And he's using the word dispel, in this case, in connection with glamour. So I find this really interesting. I thought that this section that we're going through here is really of great value. This meditation, which is really a part of another meditation, sort of here and giving us the heart and the heart beams, and the other meditation that we're using is giving us the ajna beams, the beams, to be on the beam and to put our beams together for extra power in occultly dissipating the things that are holding so many people in a kind of reactive emotional slavery. We can get good at this, if we just keep our sense of humility about it and don't think that we are somehow the personality, and just keep the personality as instrumental. Okay, so your thoughts now about this kind of thing, whatever it may have triggered in your mind, whatever you'd like to discuss, not for a long time, but just, something, and then we'll get on with the other meditation. Anything from you. Factuality, fifth ray, light, mind held steady in the light. Light of truth dispels glamour, like immediately. Where the truth enters, glamour disappears. be calm, be cold, be scrutinous. The mind is essentially the subduer of emotion through the presentation of fact. Wow, that can be. We have the conference coming up next year on a streamed conference, and it's all about the brilliant fifth ray. And this looks like a good title for a talk. Something to be developed. Illumination, Scorpio, Taurus, and then illumination, the very opposite of glamour. And he's saying, well, I'm not talking about all kinds of light. I'm talking about a very special case here as applied to the astral plane. And then the meditation that we went over, basically heart beam meditation, and the analogies in our own life to the heart of the sun and the central spiritual sun, and utilizing both. Just look at the second ray healing formula in the back of the book Esoteric Healing from the old commentary, and you'll see that we have a number of heart centers. We have heart between the shoulder blades, heart in the head, egoic lotus, and monad. They're all heart centers in their own way.
Michael, Joe's hand is raised. You're unmuted, Joe. Go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, I was meditating earlier today about this subject, and I just keep moving back and forth between ray 3 and ray 5. I can't figure out the difference between the subjective and the objective, the intuitive and the concrete. And anyway, it's my big issue right now.
Well, look, either one can be either of those rays.
Oh, I think they blend also.
Well,
that's part of
they can be, yeah. Well, it's, what you want is a unified mind. You know how it is when you're first learning how to drive a shift car? And every time you shift, everybody in the car is lurched because you don't know how to shift, And and when you're a singer, I taught singing for a long time, and people had difficulty with register changes. So, the people who couldn't shift, suddenly they've changed into a lower register of the voice, but it's a jolting sound. Whereas the trained singer, it's smooth, you see. So you can blend those rays 3 and 5, and one is dealing much more with form, but it can be form on the subtle planes. That's ray 5. And ray 3 is dealing with great generalizations based on the accumulation of many factual instances. Now you look, the ray 3 businessman running around Wall Street and looking, this is going up and that's going down. It's very concrete. Ray 3 can be very concrete. And ray 5 can study the system that you want to use and, really understand when you have to sell and when you have to buy because you studied the situation. But both of them can be used in relation to the subtle planes. And of course, we have to remember that ray 3 is a ray of aspect and therefore includes within it ray 5. And DK, actually what he says, you go to about page 210 of Esoteric Psychology, volume 1, and he says the third ray and the fifth ray, they have the most laborious, detailed knowledge. That they spend their time that way, Matter of fact, this was where I made my mistake today when I was making the this 2.5-hour program. Oh boy. But you know, I just somehow left the screen focused here. Maybe I had something to learn. But anyway, between the third and fifth rays, there is a close relationship. Now here it is. In the search after knowledge, for example, the most laborious and minute study of detail is the path that will be followed, whether in philosophy, usually ray 3, the higher mathematics, ray 3 and ray 5, or in pursuit of practical science, usually ray 5. And then it gives you some other relationships here between 2 and 6 and 1 and 7. So, you know, you can discriminate, you can use them together. And he did say this, you know, somewhere in the third ray essentialization, he says that when you have the third ray and the fifth ray together, it makes you what's called the master of the pen. I guess in those days people use pens, you know. Anyway, the master of the pen. You know, so the great. If you want to look at that, look at Voltaire. There's a guy with a third ray soul and a powerful fifth ray mind, and somehow in fourth ray too. And he was able to really work in the field of fiction and in the field of science. And in, you know, so he had field of philosophy, you know, he had that all. He had Mercury, 3, 4, 5. The rays of Mercury are 3, 4, and 5. So he was a very strong example of being the master of the pen. So anyway, blend those things together, 3 minds unite, and it means smoothly when shifting gears, shift smoothly, otherwise you irritate the other person in the front seat, you know, if you grind the gears. Find a way not to grind the gears of mind, but to go with facility on the elevator of consciousness from the high to the low. You know how, what that feeling is when you're riding an old elevator and it's lurching around? Doesn't feel so safe, does it? So, you know, make it smooth, and practice will help.
Thank you very much. I realized this morning that for the first time that I started early effort toward meditation along with the same early effort of working with astrology. And, you know, so I got the two of them always blending, and I had no idea that what you described this morning, that's really helpful to me.
That's good. Okay, that's good. Look, the rays hate and kill each other at the bottom of the pyramid. And then the more they climb towards the summit, the more they realize they need each other and they assist each other. So we can indeed fuse and blend the rays in such a way that they really are mutually supportive. But of course, practice makes perfect, you know.
Wow.
We have to discriminate first, you know.
Great.
We'll do it. Yeah.
That's helpful too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, what else? What else? Let's see, I think Tuya was here. I want to put her over on the other side. I don't know what happened, but anyway. Okay, other thoughts, friends? Anything else that you want to deal with? You know, I'm going to kind of strongly recommend the videotapes of not tapes, but the video programs of externalization of the hierarchy. There is some material in there which, you know, in my own life has been underread, and it's absolutely so wonderful about how we can work to educate the public to accept the emergence of the hierarchy in a more reasonable manner. It's really good stuff. Now, in this big program I made today, since I made that error, and had kind of an unmoving screen in front of me for a long time, I also gave to one of our colleagues here a copy. To BL, I gave a copy of the text I was using. But it's also possible to, the nice thing about the Zoom format is that it's pretty accurate in the transcription of words. So even though nothing's changing in the middle of the screen, which is really boring, off to the side, everything that is said, whether from DK or my commentary, is there with not too many mistakes. So that can be provided for you, at least in this one instance, which is so unfortunate that I didn't change the, make the screen moving again. But anyway, the point is the externalization of the hierarchy. Those essays, as we're getting near the end of the book, are just wonderfully practical about what we can do and must do. And even now, when they were written like 70 years ago or 75 years ago, they're still critical, still important. It's almost as if DK knew how long they had to last before the new teaching came in. And even then, they will be a layer, a foundational layer that we want to study. So go to Makara, those things are there. A lot of programs are there on a lot of books. And if you have the time driving in the car or walking or jogging or whatever you do, you might want to put on the headset and listen to some of these things. I think I listened to Cosmic Fire 2 times through while jogging in the days when I could move. Anyway, a long time ago, but it gets into you, when you listen to these tapes or programs.
Michael.
Gets into you. And you may not be able to, you may not be able to hear everything. I mean, see everything, but at least you can hear it. Or even just the recordings of the books themselves, which the Lucis Trust can provide you with. And I've done some of those books too, both of the discipleship volumes and the astrology volume. I've done those completely for the Lucis Trust, so you can. It's very useful. It gets into you, and then you learn it by heart. And when you learn something by heart, you can play with it artistically, so you get more out of it. Yeah, Michael, go ahead.
Okay, BL has put the link to the externalization of the hierarchy programs in the chat box. And
Okay.
Earlier, Joe had put in a from Dyna 1, a bunch of information. It took several times to get that in. And then Kim has written a question, quote, see a shaft of light pouring out of the heart center between the shoulder blades, unquote. The question is, through the front or back of the body?
Through the front. Yeah, through the front. Because you've got to be able to direct it. You can't, you don't, maybe one day you'll have eyes in the back of your head, but right now, the origin is the center between the shoulder blades and the point of efflux is the front. So do it that way, and it's under control. But the point of origin is the chakra up the spine between the shoulder blades. Same, here we have some centers which are frontal or in between, or they have their origin back here. This is a frontal center. You're not going to go backward that way. Although there are some drawings that show this having the chakra there as well, but direct out the front. The Kundalini rises, comes around, and comes down to here, which is a great center of direction. That's the way I would practice it, frankly. He does, some things he doesn't get into too much. He just says, you have to figure it out for yourself. But looking at all the different chakra pictures and so forth, that seems the way to go from back to front. At least I try it that way.
Okay. And Veronica writes, but it said, turn your back to the glamour. So
Yeah.
I also thought that the light came from the back.
Okay, we're not dealing with the glamour at that point, are we? We're just dealing with ignoring the glamour and focusing on the sun, isn't it so? Let's see. So no, wait a second. The disciple must, wait, what am I doing? This is May. Okay. So what do we do here then? Imaginatively stand with your back to the world of glamour. So you cast it out of your mind symbolically, and with the eye of your mind focused on the soul, whose nature is love. So that's the focus. It's the love. It's the higher mental plane. It's the egoic lotus. It's the causal body. That is the focus as you try to live in that world of the higher mind. It just means you're just ignoring the glamour. Symbolically, that's what it means. And you let then the reality of the soul percolate into your mind, and it will, when you use the techniques of dissipation, it'll be there for you to use. You have to face, however, symbolically, your own glamours. Anything else?
Suzanne says she appreciates the practical questions on correct use of the centers. And I wanted to touch on the calendar a little bit.
Okay.
Tomorrow evening is the Soul of Nations broadcast at 5 p.m. GMT. BL and Eva Smith have an esoteric astrology student webinar at 7 p.m. GMT tomorrow.
Is it limited to students only, BL? Yeah. Is it limited to the students of Moria Federation, or do you accept others?
Michael, this year we've opened it up to everyone. So the announcement has gone out and the link is available, and anybody can attend. But there's a competing webinar for those who are involved in the esoteric healing. So, the full moon events kind of messed up this month and are trying to keep out of each other's way. But
no, this month the esoteric healing webinar is on Sunday the 14th.
Oh, okay. So it's not competing.
It's not.
Anyway,
competing.
We'll try to not step on each other's toes,
And
obviously,
I wanted to also say, no, the Esoteric UN webinar is the 21st, not this coming Sunday.
And what time on the 21st?
On the 21st, it is at 1 p.m. GMT.
Okay. I was thinking that my son is getting married on that day, so what shall I do, the webinar or his marriage? What do you say?
We talked about that, and it's all good.
I know, it's all good. I know. I was really afraid. Yeah.
I'm sorry. While we're doing public service announcements, we're in the middle of a massive backup of the Makara website. And so for the past 2 days, I have not uploaded the 5 or 6 programs that you've sent me because, so it's going to be a day or two before We're up to 74 for hierarchy has been posted, but 75, 6, and 7 have not, and they won't be for probably another day. The same with this
Okay, that's it.
webinar, yesterday's reappearance of the Christ. But hopefully within the next day or two, we'll get that backup completed and we'll be able to go back in and post all the stuff that we have ready to go from that you, because you've been a very busy beaver this last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I know. There's 100 pages left in the book. And then back to the beginning, I think I didn't do 60 pages. But anyway, you'll have to start somewhere. I mean, not you, but people who are going to do this externalization. And can they go to Makara, or basically can they not?
Yes,
At
they
this
can go
time?
to Makara. There's a different protocol that we use when we upload the files, but they're available and they can download them. That's not a problem. They can go to Makara. They can see the bazillion commentaries and webinars, and the full extent of your work is there on Makara. It's just the past 2 days that I have not updated.
Oh, well, talk about busy beaver. No, it's fine. Thank you, BL, for the great work you're doing on that. Yeah, okay, well, you have to start somewhere. It all depends. Look, there's a lot on Makara. Written, and not only as myself as the author, but I have a lot of stuff there, written and spoken. And the entire book of esoteric astrology, spoken, the entire ebook, which is on the monad, not too long a book, 100 maybe something pages, which is, studying the monad with what I thought I knew when I did it. And then there is another ebook, which is called the Egoic Lotus. There's quite a few programs there, and someone actually got through that. One of our astrologer friends actually, I think, made it through. That's they ought to get a hero badge on that one. And then the latter part of the book, the raised and the initiations, it's all commentaries done, videoed, and the first part is written. And Cosmic Fire, the latter part of Cosmic Fire is videoed, and the first part is exhaustively written. And you can, join us when we have our Cosmic Fire in-depth webinars, just like we did, this morning? Morning for me, morning in Europe. And the entire Initiation Human and Solar has commentary on it, and lots of material from the old commentary from esoteric psychology. And I don't know if I'm leaving anything out, but anyway, point is, you've got a lot that you can study. And I say to myself, well, if you want to be like Master DK, just study for a few thousand years and you'll get there. He's profound in his studies. But then there is the meditation part, of course, and the service part, indispensable. So it's enough to keep all of us going throughout the Aquarian age, I would say, especially when the new dispensation comes out. The new bridging treatises come out. But anyway, the big books, Cosmic Fire and Rays and the Initiations, they're all done. They're a mixture of what is written and what is spoken, but they're all done. And should give you plenty to think about. And astrology, all done. And that is complete. So apply yourself, And when you have time, steal the time as necessary to study and meditate and to serve, because this is the moment of intensity, and it is expected that if we get the new things, we have to assimilate the old first. Okay, is there anything else?
I have two things.
Yep.
Before we go into the meditation. There are messages coming out to everyone on constant contact. And please pay attention to those messages because it gives the schedule and the links for all the events, the webinars and the broadcasts. So it's very important to pay attention to those messages from constant contact. And also, it is still possible to enroll in the Moria Federation. There's a question about being able to enroll. And
yes, we know where to put you, even though it's a little ahead of our intake time, but people can enroll at any time of the year.
Right.
And
if they
BL can address that.
Right. If they apply for, Great Quest and Quest Universal, our intermediate and our advanced courses, they do start at the beginning of our school year, which is the December solstice. But anyone who applies to those prior to that, mid-year, what we'll do is we'll enroll you temporarily as a placeholder in the Meditation Quest program, which is available all year long. And then depending on how much esoteric studies you've had, we'll tailor a little program for you. So it gets you on campus, it gets you used to our program, and it gets you working with us before we move you into, whichever program it was that you actually applied for. So we do accept applications at all times. And as a matter of fact, as a result of the conference, we've received a number of applications lately. So we're doing a booming business right now.
That's great. That's great. Well, look, we have only 5 years to be the group John the Baptist and alert people to the externalization reappearance dynamic, but also to give us a better and better foundation on which to encounter, on the basis of which to encounter DK's new teaching coming out around 2025, he says. So we've got our hands full. We've got plenty to do, and this is the time to do it, to raise our point of tension, our focus. It's focused, immovable will, that point of tension, raise our point of tension with regard to the value of spiritual occultism and its application. So thank you, BL, for letting people know. And actually in our other webinars, we've got to let them know about all of this as well. That's very helpful. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'm going to ask Tuya, are you there, dear? Are you present?
I am. Do you hear me?
I do.
Okay,
okay,
good.
maybe we can, shall we turn the, we'll turn it over to you. Let's see, how do we do this?
No, it's better that you are showing there because I am on wireless and I do not have my electricity wire, so I try to keep everything very stable, that it is not going to cut.
An occultist without electricity is a problem. Okay. So anyway, well, all I have is what I have is basically what DK gave.
All right.
I have this. I don't have your PDF, but I have this. So.
Yeah, but there are those mantras. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Okay, wait a second. I've just got to. Okay, well, anyway, no more of the questions, and we're done with this. And now you can lead us into the meditation on. It's on the glamour of selfish promotion of the personality as more important than the soul. Okay, it's a phase, and it's a dangerous phase, and it's a glamorous phase.
Can we say that in any shorter way, or do I have to?
I probably can't.
Can't. Okay. Right. Okay, and you are ready there, right? So we will start our meditation, and we can just a few times breathe in and center ourselves while I'm going to read our names who are at present at the moment. Alexandra, Ann, Anna, Anne, Annette, Antoinette, Arjo, Aurea, Barbara, Carl, Catherine, Chuang, Cindy, Frida, Gretchen, Heike, Helen, Jessica, Joe, Joanne, Johi, Karen, Catherine, Kim, Marco, Maria, Marianne, Martha, Nathalie, Nienke, Olivia, Sandra, Susanne, Tia, Walter, Sinead, Anne Veronica, BL, Joe, Michael, Michael Stacy, and Tuya. And we hold just for a moment the group in our hearts and minds in the light. Protective formula. As these words are uttered, each group member makes the sign of the cross of divinity, and that is from forehead to the heart, from left eye to the right eye. And while we are saying this, following mantra in unison, and we place our hand on forehead, and we say together, as a soul I work in light, to the heart, and darkness cannot touch me, left eye. I take my stand within the light, right eye. I work, and from that point I never move. The three preparatory stages. Focus now with the dual light of matter, of etheric physical and mind, of mental. Meditate on soul contact. Recognize the soul light. Now see the fusion of these two lesser lights or matter, the dual light or matter, etheric physical and or mental, with soul light. So we see this fusion between these two lesser lights with the soul light in the mental body. Let us say together, the light is one, and in that light shall we see the light. This is the light that turns the darkness into day. The formula. Visualize this great searchlight which we now have created in this fusion, and turn its light upon the astral plane. And together we say again, radiance are we and power. We stand forever with our hands stretched out, linking the heavens and the earth, the inner world of meaning and the subtle world of glamour. We reach into the light and bring it down to meet the need. We reach into the silent place and bring from thence the gift of understanding. Thus with the light we work and turn the darkness into day. Invoke spiritual will, and you may visualize the will line from through Antakarana, sacrifice petals to atmic plane of spiritual will, and to monad. And firmly hold that will. And we say together, with power upon its beam, the light is focused on the goal. We hold that light, searchlight upon the clamor. The clamor to be dissipated is surface promotion of the personality as more important than the soul. Surface promotion of the personality as more important than the soul. Reflect, why is this a negative solution for modern humanity? We throw the light upon the clamor and hold it steady and utter the words of power together. The power of our united light prevents the appearance of the clamor of surface promotion of the personality as more important than the soul. The power of our united light negates the quality of the clamor from affecting humanity. The power of our united light destroys the life behind the clamor. We visualize the light penetrating into the clamor, surface promotion of the personality as more important than the soul. And now we are going to have 5 minutes silence. And during the silence, we see it produces the weakening of the clamor and its dissipation. 5 minutes silence. And we turn away our attention from the astral plane and refocus back upon the mental plane. The searchlight and also the group searchlight of the soul is shut off. And we sound Om again. And we visualize that the work had been done mentally, emotionally, and physically, and it has been successful. So it be. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuya. We all try to overcome our excessive concern about personality, and we learn with the Tibetan to take the eyes off the personal self, which is simply an instrument for the expression of soul energy, helpfully for the manifestation of the divine plan. So, friends, thank you for being here, and many blessings, lots of love. Michael announced what we're having tomorrow, but it will be the Soul of Nations work. And then on Sunday, the Esoteric United Nations, if you remember, and because to be a member, one has to take an oath. Not everybody wants to do that, but it's serious business. So we'll have another opportunity for people to join and basically commit your personality to your soul in the ongoingness of the evocation of the Soul of Nations. And then that's at 1 o'clock p.m. GMT on Sunday, and then we will continue with the attempt to invoke the financial resources to keep the work going, vital, alive, you know. So thank you all for your participation. And we'll get this up on Makara, you know, as soon as may be possible. And there's a lot of things there, so do plan to spend an hour or so looking around and seeing what's available to you. And if you're a member of Moria Federation, do take time to examine the website of Moria Federation, which, let's see, there's the Moodle website, and that's all of the academic work that we have, and then the Federation website itself. And then, of course, we're consolidating all this. We have the also the Seven Ray Institute website, which has lots of items there as well. So we're quite diversified, but there's plenty to nourish your inner soul nature. So, thank you. And Tuya and I and the whole communications team wish you the very best. And we will work together continually over the years, finishing the book and becoming more and more adept at identifying the obstructions and getting rid of them. And when Tuya and Olivia and myself started all this some years ago, we knew it was serious business, and it is. So watch yourself and keep yourself detached so that you can subdue emotionalism with the illumination of the mind, as we have studied together this time about that. Somehow very important. The mind is essentially the subduer of emotion through the presentation of fact. Okay, we'll see you soon. All the best. Oh, Michael?
Stay on for
yes?
a couple of minutes after we let everyone go.
Okay, okay.
Stop the recording.
Okay. Okay, and you want to, yeah. Okay, we'll let everybody go, and those that have to remain.
You and Tuya.
Okay. Okay, yeah, okay, very good. Now, let me see where I am. Okay, recording is now over.
Okay. And everyone else can leave. And I've got a question for Michael and Tuya.
Okay, bye-bye.